In this lesson, we'll create a button for displaying the news headlines using some of our previously learned techniques and combining them. Okay, so I want to go ahead and just grab a few of these shapes that we've already made. Maybe just grab this one right here. We'll duplicate that, bring it over, maybe make it just a little bit bigger, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. And let's go ahead and make another shape inside of this one that's going to be just kind of like another ring in here. So go ahead, just kind of start in the middle, draw out there. Now let's make sure that this has been grouped together so that we're not accidentally grabbing different things that we don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of those and not the inner ring, and we'll hit Control G just to group that. And I think I want the stroke of this to be white, so I'm just going to go ahead and click that stroke, come over here to my swatches, and we'll change that up a little bit. And we can make this one our blue color that we've been using. Let's go ahead and bump up that stroke just so it's a little bit more visible. And let's go ahead and select the whole thing, and we'll come over here to our Pathfinder, or excuse me, our Align panel. And I'm just going to go ahead and horizontally and vertically align those just so that that fits a little bit better. Maybe make this inner one just a little bit bigger. You could bump up that stroke just a little bit more. And now I'm ready to create some stuff just to go inside of this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and select the whole thing again and hit Control G to group it. And now I want to type the word news. So if you still have your vertical type tool selected from your last lesson, we're going to just go back to the regular type tool. And I'm just going to type in the word news. Now, this is starting out just really plain and simple, but I want to make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to go back to that PFDIN font that we were using earlier, and I think it would look better all caps. So I'll go ahead and choose that just from that drop down, choose all caps. And instead of using the regular stance, I think we should make this a lot bolder just so it feels more like a headline. And I'm also going to italicize that. So now it's going to kind of look like this. We can make that larger, maybe track it in just a little bit so you can come in here, make those a little bit closer together just so that from far away those spaces don't look so strange. I think between the E and the W needs a little bit of kerning, so I'm going to just put my cursor in between there, hold down the Alt key and hit the left arrow key just to bring that over a little bit. Maybe give the S just a little bit more room right there, and go ahead and zoom out, see how that looks from far away. Looks pretty good. I think that the black is a little bit harsh, so let's turn that to white and make sure we're doing that for the fill, not the stroke. Let's zoom out again just to take another look at that, and that looks pretty good. I can read that. I know what that says. Looking good. So we'll go ahead and move this over so that it's just kind of right here on the edge and farther to the left, but still in the middle of what we're looking at here. And I also want this to be behind the rest of these shapes. So I'll go ahead and select that. And if you want to send something all the way to the back, you can hit Control Shift left bracket, and that will not just take it down in steps, it's going to send it to the complete bottom of that stacking order. Now I want to add some other things just to make this look a little more interesting. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I want to create some arrows that just kind of look like they're circling around in front of this. So I'm going to start over here in the lower left corner, and we can just kind of click down here, and then I'm going to click sort of up here and then just start to drag that handle out just like that. And then we can switch that over to our stroke. Let's go ahead and change that to that orange color that we've been working with, and we'll come over here to our stroke panel, and I think this would look nice as a dashed line, so I'll go ahead and check that on. Maybe make the weight of that a little bit heavier, just kind of like that. And now I'm going to show you how to turn this into an arrow. So it's really easy just using Illustrator's built-in arrowhead tools. So if I just come in here and choose one of these arrowheads, it's going to give me an arrowhead on the left side of that path, which is where I clicked first, and then the right side is where I ended. So I actually don't want an arrow on that end. I want it to be on the end that I ended with, so it's kind of going in that direction, in the direction that you would read the word. So there's you know, a little bit of a reason why we want an arrowhead on this end and not on this end. So I'm going to come over to this one, and it's going to apply an arrowhead to the end of the path instead of the start point. So we'll just start out with arrowhead 1 for now. And you can choose the scale of how big that arrowhead is to the path itself. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit just so it doesn't feel quite so large and overwhelming. And also another thing I can do for this path, if I don't like the way that this dash looks really small here at the end, I can change this and it's going to preserve that exact dash and gap length. So I'll go ahead and click that, and that's going to fix that up for me. And now maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. So with that selected, I'll just go ahead and hold Shift and Alt. We'll maybe make this fit just a little bit better in the shape that we've created. And maybe we want to even make it a little bit heavier. So I'm just going to increase the weight. And you can see that as I increase that weight, the ratio of how big that arrowhead increases, so that gets larger. So I may want to turn that back down if I don't want that to get so close to this piece of my line for my arrow. So once I'm happy with the way this looks, maybe I could add a little bit more to it, maybe give it a really subtle drop shadow. So I can select the whole thing, go up to Effect, Stylize, choose Drop Shadow. And I want to make sure that I turn on my preview. Now it's going to default to give me that drop shadow that's below the arrow, but I actually want it to be above so that it's casting up towards the word. So to do that, I'm just going to turn that Y offset down until it gets into those negative numbers, and that's going to bring it up. And if you want to, you can also change the X offset to kind of push it in this direction a little bit more. So if you have those numbers negative, instead of being a little bit to the right and down, it's now going to be a little bit to the left and up. You can also turn up the blur if you want this to be a little bit softer, and if you want to change that opacity, you can do that as well. Maybe turn that down just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. Once you're happy, we can go ahead and click OK. And now I want to take this same arrow and put it behind the whole thing, so it looks like it's kind of gone up and then back around. So I'm just going to hold the Alt key with this arrow already selected, then click and drag away so that I have another instance of this. Then I'm just going to turn it so it kind of goes just like that. Now if I just put this right behind there, I'm not going to really be able to see that arrowhead very well. It probably will look better if the arrowhead is up here. Now later on, when this gets animated, I think it would be nice to have multiple arrowheads going around and around these paths. But for now, let's just go ahead and make it look as good as we can as a still image. So I'm going to come over here and grab my pen tool. We'll just grab the Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm just going to click right where I want that arrowhead to be. So just right about there, and then we can come back, grab the Delete Anchor Point, and you can just take that off, and that's going to give you the arrowhead in the place that you want it to be. And you'll notice that it puts the tip of the arrowhead right where that point is. So if you wanted the arrowhead to be farther down, if you thought maybe it would be in the middle, you might want to place that anchor point in a different position. But this doesn't help me to have that line continuing down by using that subtraction. So I'm going to undo that. So just hit Control Z. And so that's going to bring this back so that the arrowhead is here. Now, I've Control Z'd until that point was gone. So I'm going to go ahead and add another point just right there. And this time, instead of subtracting on that corner, I'm going to grab the scissors tool and we'll just cut along that point. So now I have an arrowhead on both of those points, but I don't want an arrowhead on this end because it's not going to be visible. So now these are two separate paths. I can just select that second path and come in there to my arrowhead and choose none. So now that's going to be exactly where I want it. Now I may want to come in, maybe move that down a little bit, just so that I have a little more control over that point. So you can just come in, move this around a little bit, maybe make it feel a little bit more centered. Just kind of play with it until you get it right where you want it. If you need to, you can grab that direct selection tool and click that point and then pull that edge out, just kind of like right there. Maybe play around with the handles a little bit just to make it feel like it's following that curve better. And then this one we'll probably want to pull down here just so that that end is at the proper end point. So it's better if you kind of do it right in the first place and you don't do all of this adjusting, just because then you keep that path looking like it's actually a true curve, because now we kind of have a little point in our path, but you can still adjust that until you're happy with the way that it looks and it's not too noticeable. So you kind of just need to know how to be able to adjust those anchor points and handles so that that line feels a little more continuous. So I'll go ahead and choose that same option for this one so that my dashes are all that same length. So just make sure that's turned on for all of your lines. And now let's just go ahead and group those two pieces together. So select both of them, hit Control G to group them, and then we'll go ahead and send them to back by hitting Control Shift left bracket. And now this is behind everything, but it's still a little more visible than I would like it to be. I'm going to move it down just a little bit there. So to make this feel like it's actually behind some glass here, I'm just going to select that path, and then we'll come up here to Effect, go to Stylize, and choose Feather. We'll go ahead and turn on the preview for that, and I'm just going to feather this out along the edges, maybe give it a second to catch up here, just to really make it feel like it's behind some glass. And if you want to make that go a little bit faster, you can always hold Shift, and that's going to bump that up. So once you're happy with the way that that looks, now this feels like it's a little bit farther away. It's kind of going behind there. I want to add maybe just one more reflection, kind of like we did earlier with this piece. And instead of just recreating another reflection, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that one. Now I've grouped this all together, so I'll hit Control Shift G to ungroup that. And I'll just then select my reflection, hold down Alt, and drag it away to duplicate that. Then we can group that back together and just borrow that reflection and scale it down to place it on this current shape that we're working on. And this is just going to help to keep that reflection a little more consistent, so that that opacity is the same color, and that just looks really nice. It feels like it's very reflective and really feels like something that you would actually see for the news. So these arrows just kind of help to give it that circulation feel, and really looks nice with the rest of the colors that we've chosen here. So in this lesson, we learned how to create the news button using some of our previously learned workflows, as well as a few new techniques for creating other types of shapes.